Hello, Geeks and Gamers. Matt Lemke here in, I guess you'd call it my dungeon, with Erik Mona in his office on the opposite side of the country. Indeed. Just like an airplane. And we're going to talk today about Pathfinder Origins, not the book, but the comic book that Erik kind of brought into fruition. He worked a lot of the writing. He didn't do any of the drawing, probably.
No, I did not do any of the drawing. No.
He says that with a big smile. So that's
probably good for everybody, because my drawing skills are very bad.
As are mine. And anyway, that's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to spend 15-20 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, depending on what Erik's got to say. So, Pathfinder Origins, being the new comic book that it is, where is it starting? Or, yeah, I guess that's the best way to say it.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Thanks for having me, Matt. Pathfinder Origins is the new comic series from Dynamite Entertainment, our comic book publishers. They've done several series so far featuring our iconic characters. But with this series, we wanted to do a couple of different things. The first thing that we're doing differently is it's called Pathfinder Origins. So it's a 6-issue series, and each issue focuses on one of the 6 main iconic characters who have featured in the Pathfinder comics so far. So that would be Ezrin the Wizard, Valeros the Fighter, let's see who else. We've got Sione the Sorceress, Kira the Cleric, Mauricio the Rogue, and I'm missing one who is not coming to me at the moment. But anyway, so those 6 characters, each character gets one issue to kind of retell their whole origin. In terms of where the comic starts, it starts pretty much where the last series let off, which was called City of Secrets, and that left the Pathfinders in Magnamar. Ezrin, the wizard, who has been kind of sending reports to his boss, Sheila Hydemark, at the Magnamar Pathfinder Lodge, has finally become a member of the organization. But he and his other companions, the 5 I mentioned, plus Harsk, the Dwarf Ranger, are kind of at the beginning of this series. They've been in Magnamar for a couple of weeks. They have not been attacked by the gang that they were fighting with in the last series, and so they come to Sheila Hydemark and they basically say, okay, well, we're on your team now, and we hear you've got this great map room with all these leads to adventurers and different mysteries that the Pathfinder Society would like solved, so how about you let us in there? And Sheila's a little more circumspect, and she sort of says, well, Ezrin, I trust you, and you're a member in good standing, and your companions are obviously good friends, but they are not themselves Pathfinders, and so I've been hearing some things about, Valeros drinking a little more than he should. Mauricio's got a criminal record in the town going back 30 years. Like, maybe these aren't the right people to let into our most secret sanctum. And so the first issue, which I wrote, has Valeros stepping forward and basically saying, hey, lady, if you're going to judge me, at least judge me on my own words. And then he proceeds to tell a story, an origin story, if you will, that relays some of Valeros's backstory and kind of provides some more context for the heroes that people have been enjoying now for about 18 issues.
That's a lot.
Well, there's more.
There is more. And like you said, they were featuring the iconic characters. Is there a projection of how long you want this storyline to go on? Or
yeah, well, yes, exactly right. The story is 6 issues long. It's a self-contained 6-issue miniseries. So each character gets their own issue to focus on their background, and then we'll go back and do something else after that. A different series, ideally. And one of the neat things about Pathfinder Origins is, in addition to telling the story of the 6 familiar characters, what we learn is that in each issue, one of the familiar iconic characters in their backstory had crossed over with one of the other iconic characters who have not been featured in the comic yet. So, for example, the first issue, which I have here, Pathfinder Origins #1, which is available on store shelves right now, that features not just our good friend Valeros here, but also Emiri, the human barbarian, and she has not previously appeared in a comic, and that goes through all 6 issues. So, for example, the next issue is going to be Kira the cleric and Sela the paladin in a story from kind of Kira's background. We have following that Sione and Celtiel, the half-elf magus. We've got Mauricio and Sejan, the monk. We have Harsk and Linny, the druid, who actually did have a cameo appearance back in the very first Pathfinder story arc, but we didn't really go into depth like we do this time around. And then the final issue focuses on Ezrin, and kind of he brings it all full circle, and we learn that one of the inspirations that had Ezrin finally leave kind of a bit of a tragic family situation in Absalom was an encounter that he had with the bard iconic Lem. So we learn through the course of Pathfinder Origins that all of these characters' lives are a little bit more interconnected than have previously been revealed. So 6 issues, 6 origins, really 12 origins, and then we'll move on to the next storyline after that. But there is a framing device, and there is a storyline that goes through all 6 issues of Origins as well. One of the other neat things about Pathfinder Origins is really for the first time the writing chores of the series are being handled by Paizo staff. So I wrote the first issue, I wrote the 6th issue, and so that framing device is kind of all in my bailiwick. And then F. Wesley Schneider, our editor-in-chief, and James L. Sutter, our managing editor and the guy in charge of our fiction line, each of them also wrote 2 issues. So over the 6 issues, you've got 3 Pathfinder co-creators telling the story of these iconic characters. And since in many cases we're the ones who wrote, you know, their stories back in the day, this gives us a chance to kind of update those things in a visual medium. It's been really fun. The first issue is on sale right now. It's been on the newsstands for about a week and a half, and number 2 comes out next month, and then sequentially, actually it comes out in March, and then sequentially, every month thereafter until we're done.
Which should be right around Gen Con.
Yeah. And another thing I thought I'd mention in case you've never checked out a Pathfinder comic before is it's not just a comic book. We also have a little section in the back of every issue that's kind of like a little mini game supplement. So the first issue involves this thing called the Cult of the Crimson Eye, and I wrote a little 4-page write-up of that cult with an encounter built in as well. And the neat thing about the encounter is that Dynamite has been putting little poster maps in each issue. So you get a fold-out poster map that's all scaled up to miniature size, so you can run your minis on this ruined shrine. It's got a lot of use after the encounter is over. You can always reuse a ruined shrine. And then in the back, we always like to put kind of a neat Pathfinder image. So this one is the cover to Pathfinder Unchained, which is coming out here just in about a month as the newest hardcover for Pathfinder. And each issue comes with its own fold-out poster map. And that's been a really popular thing with gamers, and people who aren't gamers probably just put the poster on their wall.
True. I try and put more posters up.
I noticed that. It's lovely. Beautiful decor you've got going there.
Well, I like the books as decor. Anyway, what was your favorite part about doing this?
Whew, boy. My favorite part about doing Pathfinder Origins was probably just the process of writing comic books. Is very different than, say, writing an adventure or even writing a short story. You've got a very limited number of pages, in this case 22 pages, to tell your story. So I did a really methodical thing where I was like, okay, here are the scenes that I want to have in the issue. Here are the pages that I've got, and I almost like storyboarded it like a movie. And that was really the tough part. And then once it was time to actually write the dialogue and make it all come together, that was easier because I had done all the planning sort of ahead of time. So I've written a couple of smaller comic book projects before, but this is the first time I've done, you know, a complete issue where I'm the only writer. So I think for me, just the process of doing it, it's been a lifelong goal really to write comics. And, you know, we created these iconic characters. I've been involved heavily in that. And I've also been involved with all the approvals and working with our previous writer, Jim Zub, on all of the Pathfinder comics that we've done to date. So getting to see it from kind of the back end and then actually putting myself forward and writing something was by far the coolest part of it. So yeah, it's kind of a simple answer, but the whole thing was really enjoyable, and just seeing it all come together. And the artist, Tom Garcia, who we had not previously worked with before, did a phenomenal job. I really like his designs, and his panel layouts are really, really cool and energetic, and he did a very good job with translating sort of my script to the comic page.
So, from a writer's point of view, how different, or no, well, do you give them the text before they draw, or is it the other way around?
No, it's definitely the writer sort of a first process. So we write a script. It's a 22 pages of comics, works out to about 25, 26 pages of written text, and it's broken down like panel 1. You know, here's the description, and then the dialogue. I have my script for number 6 right here, actually, sitting on my desk, so I can kind of show you what it looks like. It's a little bit marked up and stuff, but basically, I don't know if you can get a look at here, but it basically has the page and then the different dialogue bits, and you know, every character's got their own entry, and that way it just helps. There's a lot of people who go into making the comics, so the writer starts it, and then the artist draws it, and then you've got people coming in to color it, you have people doing the lettering, and then you have an editor at Dynamite kind of trying to make it all work together, and that's a lot of work, and so you really do have to very methodically break out like literally every single thing. And then sometimes the artist will come back and say, hey, you know, I don't really totally understand what you were trying to do here, or what have you, and you kind of refine it from there as necessary, but you really want to have it as solid as possible in script form. So that happens first, then it gets illustrated, and then it gets sort of colored and lettered pretty much at the same time, and then we get like a proof that we look at and approve. So it's kind of been unusual, honestly, in this case for me, because as the licensor, I have approval power over the whole thing, and as the writer, you know, I want to kind of like, part of me really wants to micromanage every single part, but I can't really do that. I don't want to overstep sort of most writers don't get to approve every single page, right? So I don't want to kind of throw my weight around. So I really kind of let Tom take my script in the direction that he, you know, saw from my words, and I didn't really meddle with it too much. One of the things that I've learned over the last 20 years of being in the RPG business and writing art orders and, you know, for our print books and things like that, covers, is really to get out of the way of the artist as much as possible. They, generally speaking, know a lot more about composition than a writer does. And so when I started in the business, the first cover I ever ordered was for a book over at Wizards of the Coast called The Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, and it was like really crazy Baroque description. You know, let me tell you a paragraph about all these different characters, and there's this guy up in the clouds, and he's doing this thing, and there's this chess metaphor, and you know, there's this monster, and basically ended up with a pretty convoluted cover. By contrast, the cover art order for the core rulebook, the Pathfinder core rulebook, was Valeros and Sione fight a red dragon in a dungeon. And in that case, I just knew with Wayne Reynolds, we could just trust him to do a great job, and he did. With the comic, it was sort of somewhere in the middle there, where I tried to provide enough detail so that Tom, when he was doing the art, would come at least pretty close to what I had in my mind. But it never really works that way. You know, the artist is always going to maybe, like, in a film director's sense, shoot a scene from a slightly different angle than I might have envisioned or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, I think it ended up better.
pretty cool. So it's kind of like writing a script for a play.
Yeah, it's very much like writing a script for a play, which again is a different discipline than, writing adventures. I've been doing adventures and campaign setting writing for most of my career, and during that period of time, there's not been a tremendous amount of, say, dialogue, and characters are generally in RPGs. That's the players who do that, and so you definitely have NPCs and things, but you don't think in terms necessarily of like character arcs, in terms of just it's just a different deal, kind of setting the scene and letting the players take the lead, and then in a comic or a piece of fiction, you've got to kind of have all the characters are under your purview. So that was an interesting challenge, and I think a really fun one.
So have you guys role-played this out in Office? The storyline?
No, but it's funny because we do use these characters to kind of playtest some stuff. So I remember, for example, when Pathfinder RPG was brand new, we did a playtest of Jason Bullman's adventure, Crypt of the Everflame, where I played Valeros, and Lisa Stevens played Emiri, and Josh Frost, who used to work for us, played Ezrin, and it's been kind of amazing, and then Jason ran it, and it's been kind of amazing how the characteristics of the three of us running that game have really kind of stuck in some ways. And so there's definitely elements of things that have happened in games at Paizo that have made their way into the comic scripts and into the personalities of the various iconic characters. That's for sure.
Okay, that's good. Anything else you want to add about the comic book?
Not really. I mean, just hope people go out and give it a shot. It's been a labor of love, really, for me and for James and for Wes. And some of the early reviews have been very positive and have said stuff like they can really tell that, people behind the game were writing the comic and had a real love for the setting, and that was really coming through in a way that players of Pathfinder really appreciated. And I hope we can continue that, throughout the next 5 issues. It's on newsstands now, so now is a great time to go and get started with number 1. We also sell it on Paizo.com. We've got a unique Paizo.com cover. Let's see if they provided me that one. And it looks like they didn't. But there's 5 different covers of the book, actually. Dynamite always likes to do different covers. So, there's the one I showed you earlier, this one. What's the artist behind Rat Queens now did that cover. I can never pronounce his name correctly. Stejpan Sejic, but he's a great artist. Andrew Huerta, who did the art for the very first story arc, we got him back to do like a parody cover of one of my very favorite X-Men covers of all time. So you've got sort of a Days of Future Past element there, which is pretty awesome. Then we've got this Friends drinking it up in the bar cover, and we've got this kind of Valeros and Emiri kind of dueling cover, and each of the different books has several covers. So we challenged ourselves to kind of come up with some neat stuff, and I've been seeing the covers for number 6, which I'll have to come back in a few months and tell you more about that, but they are awesome too. So Dynamite's done a great job finding cool artists. There's a couple of other artists in this series as well, so that there'll be a slight difference in voice and in art for each of these stories, but that fits with the fact that they're different narrators telling each of the stories as well. So overall, I'm really happy with how it came together. I always love any opportunity to collaborate with my fellow creative folks here at Paizo. So working with James and with Wes on the storyline, and kind of there's more interconnectivity than you might think. Some of it's a little bit subtle, but we worked really hard to make sure that even though all the stories were individual tales, they all tied together in the end. And so as the guy who wrote the end, I kind of saw it as a special responsibility to work everything in. And I know when we did the script approval meeting for number 6, and my cohorts over here read through it, they were like, whoa, this really ties it all up. We didn't, that's awesome. And I'm like, Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. So hopefully people will like it. I really hope that people like it because I would love to do more comic books myself. You know, I mean, I think that I speak for James and Wes as well. It's just been an enormously fun project. Dynamite's been really, really good to work with. And yeah, I just look forward to more cool Pathfinder comics in the future, written by me or by other folks. And it's great. It's been an opportunity to match my love of gaming with my love of comics and kind of just smash them, you know, together and see what comes out.
There's no X-Men posters on your wall.
No, there's actually no posters on my wall really at all because we're about to move our offices in about a couple of weeks, month. We're going to just move over to the other side of the building. So I've got all kinds of cool art sort of sitting up against the wall, but not too much actually on the wall right now in preparation for moving around.
So with that being said and done, PaizoCon's right around the corner.
Uh-huh.
Anything cool happening this year?
Yeah, lots of cool things are happening this year. We've got I've got someone lurking at my door. No. We got lots of great stuff. We just turned in our events, so those will be going up live. Every Paizo staff members bringing at least 8 hours of their own home campaigns or their own special games. We've got special guests this year, Brandon Hodge, who has been our special consultant on the Occult Adventures book that we're going to be putting out in August. Brandon will be our special guest at the show, and he'll be talking about his own. He's an interesting guy. He collects Ouija boards and knows a lot about spiritualism and stuff, and so we brought him in as to add a little verisimilitude to some of the occult rules. He'll have lots to say about that. He also wrote Rasputin Must Die, which is one of the most popular adventures that we put out for Pathfinder Adventure Path. And then I'm really excited about our artist guest of honor this year too, which is Jason Engel. Jason has been working with Paizo since before Pathfinder even existed. He does most, if not all, for the last several years of our flip mats and map packs. He also did all the illustrations for the prestige classes in the core rulebook and has done other cover work for us and interior work for us and has been a good friend, and we're excited to bring him to the convention. I can reveal here for the first time that we've got some additional guests as well. We've got Greg Vaughn is going to be there. Greg has written virtually for every single, I think he's done every single Adventure Path that we've published so far. He's had an installment in. And Neil Spicer, who was our 2009 RPG superstar and has become one of our favorite and best writers for a variety of different projects. He'll be here as well, and it looks like our mad genius from the tropical isles of Hawaii, Nick Logue, will also be stopping by and gracing us with his strange presence. So he's just a major trip to hang out with that guy. So that's exciting. The thing about PaizoCon that's really cool is we try to have it be like a super accessible show, like where everyone at Paizo, the whole staff is there. We have special guests from our writers and things. We're all, you know, just gamer guys and girls, and we just like to game. And so unlike, say, Gen Con, where we're really super busy and we have all kinds of meetings and we're running a huge booth and a huge organized playroom, at PaizoCon we all have time to just sit and hang out and you know, play games. So we'll be doing that. I always run a fun sort of wind down event at the very end of the show in the bar, which is a pre-painted miniatures trading party, so people just bring all their minis. We just sit and have some drinks and trade plastic minis, which is always really fun. We'll have some representatives from Obsidian Entertainment at the con this year, showing off the Pathfinder Adventure card game app that they're working on and hope to release soon. We'll have Pathfinder Online games on demo that you can go check out the MMO that Goblin Works is working on. We'll have lots of events for Pathfinder Society, including a couple of special evening events. We'll have the Paizo banquet, the preview banquet that we do every year, showing off upcoming releases, things we haven't told anybody about, and that's great. One of the great things about this year as well is we've moved the space. So we're at the DoubleTree Seattle Airport Hotel, which is a fantastic venue. Last couple of years, PaizoCon has been amazing, but it has felt like we've been kind of like stretching at the limit of the venue where we've been, and so this is a very large space. It gives us a lot of room to grow in the next couple of years. We're gonna have more space between tables. It's just gonna be a much nicer, larger spot, and so I know that the hotel is taking reservations already. We're selling tickets to PaizoCon. The banquet in particular usually sells out. You'll want to make sure that you're registered soon so you can get into the event lottery to get in some of the special staff and special guest games, and that's all at paizo.com/PaizoCon, one word. So go there. There's more information. Check it out. We do hope to see you. It's an amazing show, and everybody should try to visit at least once.
At least once. My goal's next year.
Once. You coming?
That's my goal next year.
We'd love to have you, Matt.
I'm dying to get to this show, actually.
Well, don't do that. I can say it's way more fun if you're alive. I know that. Well, I don't know that for a fact, but I have to assume it's way more fun if you're alive.
Probably. I just know. I mean, starting to get into Pathfinder more. I'm starting to actually get my friends to play it a little bit more, and real soon I'll be running my first actual Pathfinder game instead of just playing. My kids want to play, so we're going to go through Rise of the Runelords.
Nice. Yeah, classic.
That's going to be their first Pathfinder experience.
Cool. Well, hey, before we close out here, I wanted to introduce a little friend of mine here who's been dying to say hello.
Oh my God!
Hi!
Oh.
This little guy here is a vinyl goblin bank that we just got our first sample of. He's coming out at the end of this month, actually, from Diamond Select Toys, and we'll have him on the website, and he'll be at PaizoCon and at Gen Con, and he's holding a little die here. You put your money there in the back, and this guy is pretty fantastic, and I am very excited to see how people react. The paint, as you can probably see, is actually just beautiful. I'm really, really happy. When he's even got like a little earring.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, you're saying, "Adopt me."
I love your goblins.
Adopt me.
I still have your goblin Christmas card from like 3 years ago.
Oh, good. Well, we'll make more. We love doing a different goblin gag, pretty much every year. So we'll do. People love the goblins, and we have a lot of fun with them as well. So
yeah, the goblins are great. I mean, I don't know who came up with the original concept, but you should give them a raise.
Well, it's interesting. It's actually two people. It's James Jacobs, who wrote the first Pathfinder installment, Burnt Offerings, wherein goblins were the main villain. And then it was Wayne Reynolds who kind of created the look and the design of the goblins. And as he tells it, he was taking a bath one day, and he had a sponge, and he just kind of folded the sponge over to make a little mouth out of it, and that's how the Pathfinder goblin was born. So I have done my best to give James and Wayne raises as much as humanly possible, and we'll endeavor to try even more.
Well, that's great. I suppose I'll be seeing you in the near future, probably at Origins.
Yep. Looking like I'll probably be at Origins this year. Not 100%, but would love to be there. It's always fun. We'll have Pathfinder going on at Origins. We'll have the Pathfinder Society room as usual, and then we've got a section in Hall D for the Pathfinder Adventure card game as well. And we'll definitely send some staff there. Not 100% sure who yet, but Origins seems to be on the rise, and they're doing a great job, and we're happy to be there.
Yeah, they're picking up again. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think the last 4 years they've been on an upswing.
I have been there for many of those years, and I completely agree.
Anyway, thanks for joining me. I was gonna say thanks for having me. I feel
I could say the same to you. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Matt. And hope people get a chance to check out Pathfinder Origins. We certainly put a lot of thought and effort into it, and I think that most gamers are going to really dig it.
Yeah, they will. They will. All right. Everyone have a good day.
All right. See you. Bye.